Ask most people in Pennsylvania what animal they would least want to run into, and you will hear a familiar set of answers: a black bear crossing a mountain trail, a copperhead coiled in a woodpile, a coyote slipping along a tree line at dusk, maybe a rattlesnake sunning on a rock ledge somewhere back in the ridge country. Those fears make sense on the surface. Every one of those animals is capable of hurting a person, and Pennsylvania has genuine documented history with several of them. But actual fatalities in this state do not track nearly as closely with fear as most people assume, and the animal quietly responsible for more Pennsylvania deaths than any predator on anyone's mental list is not something with teeth or venom at all. Here are 10 animals connected to human deaths in this state, counting down, and the one that ends up on top will surprise almost everyone watching this. Number 10 is the black bear, the animal most associated with genuine danger in the Pennsylvania woods, and the one wildlife officials field the most public concern about every single season. Pennsylvania supports one of the densest black bear populations in the eastern United States, with animals regularly moving through suburban yards, state park campgrounds, and rural properties across huge stretches of the state, often close enough to homes that trail cameras and doorbell footage of a bear passing through has become a fairly routine piece of local news content. Despite that density and that level of regular contact with people, confirmed fatal black bear attacks in Pennsylvania are exceptionally rare. Rare enough that most residents who have lived their entire lives in bear country will never hear of a confirmed case firsthand. And most conflicts that do occur involve property damage, bird feeders, or trash, rather than any direct threat to a person. The animal generates enormous public concern relative to the almost negligible actual risk, which sets the tone for almost everything else on this list. Number 9 is the timber rattlesnake, alongside the northern copperhead, the two venomous species most Pennsylvanians actually associate with real danger in the woods. Both are native to the state, both are protected or regulated to varying degrees, and both are genuinely capable of delivering a medically serious bite to anyone who steps too close without noticing, usually while hiking, gathering firewood, or working around a rock wall or ledge where either species tends to den. Timber rattlesnake populations are concentrated in the state's more remote, rocky forest terrain in the central and northern mountains, while copperheads turn up in a wider range of habitats, including areas closer to suburban development, sometimes surprising homeowners who never expected a venomous species anywhere near their property. Confirmed snakebite deaths in Pennsylvania remain rare, largely because the state's hospital network handles the relatively small number of serious bites reported each year with well-established anti-venom protocols that most emergency rooms across the state are equipped to administer quickly. The fear here is old, cultural, and passed down through generations of hikers and hunters trading stories about close calls on the trail, and it still outpaces the confirmed toll by a wide margin. Number 8 is the coyote, an animal that did not historically belong to Pennsylvania's landscape at all, and has expanded across nearly every county in the state over the last several decades, filling a predator niche the region had gone without for a long time after wolves and mountain lions were eliminated generations earlier. Coyote sightings near suburban neighborhoods generate real public concern, particularly from pet owners, and conflicts involving livestock and small domestic animals are documented regularly across the state, especially during denning season when adults become more protective and more visible defending territory near a litter. Confirmed attacks on people remain extremely rare, and fatal ones essentially unheard of in Pennsylvania's modern record, but the animal's growing visibility and its unfamiliar place in a landscape that had not hosted a wild canine predator in generations keeps public anxiety about it running well ahead of any actual documented risk. Number 7 is the bobcat, the state's other resident wildcat, and by far its least visible, spending most of its life in terrain remote enough that even experienced trackers can go entire seasons without a confirmed sighting despite knowing exactly which ridges and drainages the animal is working. Bobcat populations have recovered significantly across Pennsylvania after being nearly eliminated by mid-century hunting pressure, a genuine conservation success story that most residents of the state have no idea even happened. But the species remains reclusive by nature, actively avoiding contact with people whenever it has the option, rather than lingering near trails or campsites the way a bear sometimes will. There is essentially no confirmed record of a fatal bobcat attack on a person in this state, and this entry exists on the list less because of any real threat and more because it completes the pattern, a genuinely wild predator that Pennsylvanians fear out of instinct despite an almost complete absence of any documented reason to. Number 6 is the black widow spider, present in the southern and warmer pockets of the state in smaller numbers than in states farther south, typically tucked into woodpiles, sheds, and undisturbed outdoor storage where it can build a web in relative peace for months at a time. Bites are uncommon in Pennsylvania specifically because the species is less established here than in warmer regions. But when a bite does occur, it is treated seriously and can produce a genuinely painful, medically significant reaction that sends people to the emergency room even when the outcome is ultimately not life-threatening. Confirmed fatalities from black widow bites in the state are essentially non-existent in the modern medical era, thanks to widely available treatment. But the reputation this spider carries, inherited from national folklore more than from any local pattern, keeps it firmly on the list of animals Pennsylvanians instinctively avoid without a second thought. If you have had a real encounter with any animal on this list, or one you think should have made the cut, drop it and your county below. People actually living alongside these animals across the state usually have a sharper sense of the real risk than any general record can offer. Number 5 is the raccoon, an animal almost every Pennsylvanian has crossed paths with at some point, and almost nobody considers dangerous in any serious sense, more likely to be remembered for raiding a trash can than for anything resembling a genuine threat. The real risk here is not the animal's bite or claws directly, but what it can carry, since raccoons remain one of the primary wildlife reservoirs for rabies in the eastern United States, and Pennsylvania has recorded confirmed human rabies exposures and historically fatal cases tied to raccoon contact before the state's current rabies vaccination and post-exposure treatment protocols became as widespread and effective as they are now, a public health infrastructure most residents never think about until they actually need it. Modern medical response has made a fatal outcome from a raccoon-transmitted infection extremely rare today, but the underlying risk is real enough that public health officials still treat any raccoon bite as a matter requiring immediate medical attention, rather than something to shrug off as a minor scratch. Number 4 is the tick, specifically the black-legged tick, responsible for transmitting Lyme disease across a state that consistently reports some of the highest case counts in the entire country, a distinction tied directly to Pennsylvania's dense forest cover and enormous deer population. Most tick-borne illness in Pennsylvania resolves with treatment and causes no lasting harm when caught early, and the overwhelming majority of tick bites never transmit disease at all, brushed off in the shower after a hike without a second thought. But untreated or misdiagnosed cases can, in rare circumstances, progress to serious complications, and Pennsylvania's dense forest cover, extensive deer population, and year-round outdoor culture combine to produce more tick exposure than almost anywhere else in the country. This is an animal nobody pictures when they picture danger, smaller than a sesame seed and easy to miss entirely, even during a careful check. And that near total invisibility is exactly what allows the risk to go so consistently underestimated by people who spend real time outdoors in this state. Number 3 is livestock, cattle and horses specifically, Animals central to Pennsylvania's extensive dairy farming and Amish and Mennonite agricultural communities across the central and southeastern parts of the state, where large animals remain a daily part of working life rather than an occasional novelty. Large animal handling remains a genuinely dangerous routine activity on working farms. Kicks, trampling, and crush injuries occurring during ordinary daily chores, moving a herd through a gate, hitching a team, working near a stall, far more often than most people outside farming life would ever guess. These incidents rarely make statewide news because they happen quietly, one farm at a time, treated as private accidents rather than anything connected to animal danger, even though the animals involved are directly responsible for the injury. This entry sits as high as it does precisely because cultural framing keeps it almost entirely out of the conversation filed under farm life rather than danger. Number 2 is the domestic dog, and here is where the list starts to genuinely challenge people's assumptions, because the animal responsible for more confirmed fatal attacks in Pennsylvania than any wild predator on this list is also the animal curled up on the couch in millions of homes across the state. Most pet dogs pose no meaningful danger to anyone, and nothing here is meant to suggest otherwise. And the overwhelming majority of dogs in this state will live their entire lives without ever seriously hurting a person. But fatal dog attacks do occur in Pennsylvania, disproportionately involving young children and unsupervised contact with unfamiliar animals. And the sheer scale of the state's dog population, vastly larger than any wild species on this entire list, means even a small individual risk compounds into a real and confirmed toll every year. Which brings this list to number 1, and it is not a predator, not a venomous animal, not anything most people would think to include on a list about dangerous wildlife at all. It is the white-tailed deer, an animal so thoroughly woven into the Pennsylvania landscape that most residents drive past dozens of them without a second thought on any given week, grazing along highway medians and backyard tree lines as familiar as any piece of scenery, and it is responsible for more Pennsylvania deaths connected to an animal than every other entry on this list combined. The mechanism is almost never a direct attack. Pennsylvania consistently ranks among the highest states in the entire country for the likelihood of a vehicle striking a deer, a consequence of the state's dense forest cover, its enormous deer population, and a road network that runs directly through prime deer habitat in nearly every county, cutting straight through the exact wooded corridors deer use to move between feeding and bedding areas each evening. Most deer vehicle collisions cause vehicle damage, and nothing worse, a dented bumper and an insurance claim, but a meaningful number every year result in serious injury or death, particularly on rural highways, at dusk and dawn, when deer movement peaks and driver visibility is at its worst, and particularly during the fall rutting season, when deer become far more likely to bolt across a road without warning. Because these collisions are so routine, treated as an unavoidable seasonal hazard rather than a genuine animal danger, the connection between the deer standing at a tree line and the fatal outcome down the road rarely gets made in the way a bear encounter or a snake bite immediately would. That is the twist worth sitting with at the top of this list. Every animal ranked above this one gets treated as some level of genuine threat, something Pennsylvanians watch for, warn their kids about, or feel a jolt of adrenaline over when they spot one in the woods, a story worth telling at dinner the same night it happens. The deer gets none of that reaction. It gets photographed in a backyard, fed corn from a bucket, watched from a kitchen window with something closer to affection than caution, right up until the moment one steps into a headlight beam on a dark rural road with no warning at all. That complete absence of fear extended toward an animal most Pennsylvanians see almost every single day of their lives without incident is exactly what allows it to quietly outkill every predator and every venomous animal this state actually spends its energy worrying about. Every animal on this list is real and connected to a genuine, documented Pennsylvania death, and none of them deserve to be waved off just because the numbers land where they do. But if this list proves anything, it is that the animals Pennsylvanians fear most and the animals actually behind the state's confirmed toll are, more often than not, two very different lists, and the gap between them is wide enough to swallow a herd of deer grazing along the tree line at dusk without anyone giving it a second thought. If you want more of these overlooked patterns brought into the light, subscribe and stay close, because the next animal on a list like this might already be standing at the edge of your own headlights tonight.